Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something powerful. Who did the pandemic force you to become? Not what did it take away from you, not what did it break, but did it shape you into when everything familiar was stripped away. Because moments of global disruption don't just test humanity, they reveal it. And now, standing on the other side of that storm, you have one of the greatest opportunities of your lifetime. The opportunity to consciously design the next chapter of your life instead of drifting into it. The truth is, the pandemic didn't create fear, uncertainty, or stress. It exposed them. It amplified what was already inside us. Some people came out smaller, more cautious, more disconnected. Others came out stronger, clearer, and more committed to what truly matters. The difference wasn't resources, luck, or intelligence. The difference was mindset and decisions. Your life is not shaped by what happens to you. It's shaped by what you decide to do about what happens to you. If you want to live your best post-pandemic life, it starts by taking back control of your emotional state. Because the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions on a daily basis. You can't build a powerful future from a place of fear. You build it from clarity, energy, and purpose. That means choosing where your focus goes, choosing empowering questions, and refusing to live in constant reaction mode to the world around you. KY, ladies and gentlemen, everything in your life begins with the state you live in. Not your circumstances, not the economy, not what happened during the pandemic, but the emotional and mental state you choose to operate from every single day. The world didn't just change around us, it challenged us internally. Fear became familiar. Uncertainty became normal. For many people, stress quietly turned into a lifestyle. But here's the truth. You were never meant to live in survival mode permanently. You were designed to thrive, to grow, and to lead your own life with intention. Reclaiming control over your mindset starts with awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. Most people allow their thoughts to run on autopilot, replaying worst-case scenarios, past disappointments, and imagine futures that haven't even happened yet. And whatever you focus on consistently, you feel. If you focus on loss, you feel fear. If you focus on uncertainty, you feel anxiety. But the moment you change your focus, you change your emotional state. Power comes from asking better questions. Like, what can I control right now? What is this moment demanding from me, and how can I use this experience to become stronger? Your emotions are not happening to you. They are happening because of you. And that's not blame, that's power. Because if you are the source, you are also the solution. The pandemic proved one thing very clearly: external certainty is an illusion. The only real certainty you can ever have is internal. When you train yourself to regulate your emotions, to breathe with intention, to move your body, to interrupt negative patterns, you stop reacting to life and start directing it. This is about identity. When you see yourself as someone who can adapt, who can respond, who can find meaning even in chaos, everything shifts. Stress doesn't disappear, but it stops controlling you. Fear doesn't vanish, but it no longer decides your actions. You begin to realize that confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build by keeping promises to yourself in small moments every day. Living your best post-pandemic life begins the moment you decide that your mindset is your responsibility. Not tomorrow, not when things feel easier. Now, because when you master your inner world, the outer world no longer intimidates you. You stop asking life for permission, and you start showing up as the leader of your own experience. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is one thing the pandemic revealed with absolute clarity, it is this. When your energy is gone, everything in life feels harder. Dreams feel heavier. Problems feel bigger, and even simple decisions feel overwhelming. Energy is the foundation of everything you do. It determines how you think, how you feel, how you act, and ultimately how you live. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your energy and daily habits. During the pandemic, routines were disrupted, movements slowed, sleep patterns collapsed, and stress quietly drained people's vitality. Many didn't realize they weren't just tired, they were depleted. And when your body is depleted, your mind follows. That's why rebuilding your physical energy is not about vanity or perfection. It's about survival and performance. It's about creating a body that can carry the life you want to live. Your body is your home. If you neglect it, it will eventually force you to pay attention through pain, fatigue, or illness. But when you treat it with respect, it becomes a source of strength and clarity. Rebuilding energy starts with simple, consistent rituals. How you begin your morning matters. How you move your body matters. How you breathe matters. Even small actions, done daily, rewire your nervous system and tell your body that you are safe, capable, and in control. Most people wait until they feel motivated to take care of themselves. High performers understand that motivation is unreliable. Rituals are reliable. You move your body not because you feel like it, but because it changes how you feel. You eat with intention not to punish yourself, but to fuel your future. You rest strategically not out of laziness, but because recovery is a performance strategy. Energy is also emotional. What you consume mentally and emotionally affects your physical state. Constant negativity, endless scrolling, and emotional stress drain you faster than any workout ever could. Protecting your energy means setting boundaries, choosing what you focus on, and deciding what deserves your attention. You don't have unlimited energy, so you must invest it wisely. When you rebuild your physical and emotional energy, confidence returns naturally. Confidence returns naturally. Not forced confidence, but grounded confidence. You stand taller. You think clearer. You respond instead of react. And from that place of strength, you can rebuild your life with intention. Because when your energy is strong, you stop just getting through the day, and you start creating days that move you closer to the life you deserve. KY, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest gifts hidden inside disruption is clarity. When the world slowed down, many people were forced to sit with questions they had been avoiding for years. Questions like, what am I really working for? What does success actually mean to me? And is the life I'm building aligned with who I truly am? The pandemic didn't just interrupt careers and plans, it interrupted identities. And in that interruption, there was an invitation to redefine purpose. For a long time, success was defined by external measures, titles, income, recognition, and security. But when uncertainty became global, many realized how fragile those definitions were. You can lose a job, a routine, or a role overnight. But you don't lose your values, your skills, or your ability to create meaning unless you give them away. Redefining success means shifting from chasing outcomes to living by standards. Standards for how you show up, how you treat people, how you grow, and how you contribute. Purpose is not something you find one day and keep forever. It evolves as you evolve. The person you were before the pandemic is not the same person standing here today. You've seen vulnerability, loss, resilience, and strength in ways you never imagined. Your purpose now may be deeper, more human, more impact-driven than before. And that's not confusion, that's maturity. When you redefine success around growth and contribution, pressure decreases and fulfillment increases. You stop comparing your timeline to others. You stop measuring your worth by speed or applause. Instead, you measure it by progress, integrity, and impact. You begin to ask, how can I use what I've learned to serve something greater than myself? Living your best post-pandemic life requires the courage to let go of outdated definition. It requires the honesty to admit when old goals no longer fit. And it requires the strength to design a future that reflects who you are now, not who you were told to be. When success is aligned with purpose, every step forward feels meaningful, even when the path is uncertain. KEY, ladies and gentlemen, if the pandemic taught us anything that no book or seminar ever could, it is that human connection is not a luxury, it is a necessity. When distance was forced upon us, many people discovered that success, comfort, and technology mean very little without meaningful relationships. We are wired for connection. We grow through it, we heal through it, and we find fulfillment through it. Yet in the rush of life, relationships are often the first thing we put on autopilot. Strengthening relationships begins with presence, real presence. Not just being in the same room, but being emotionally available, listening without waiting to speak, and seeing people for who they are instead of what they can give you. During isolation, many people realize which connections were shallow and which ones truly mattered. That awareness is powerful if you choose to act on it. Connection also requires courage. The courage to communicate honestly, to express appreciation, and sometimes to set boundaries. Strong relationships are not built on perfection, they are built on truth. When you show up authentically, you invite others to do the same. And in a world that has been emotionally shaken, authenticity creates safety. Gratitude is one of the fastest ways to deepen any relationship. Too often we assume people know how we feel about them. They don't. Oh. Appreciation spoken out loud strengthens bonds and reminds people that they matter. A simple acknowledgement can repair distance that years of silence created. Rebuilding human connection also means letting go of isolation habits that became comfortable. Reaching out first. Being willing to reconnect. Investing time and energy into people instead of just tasks. Because relationships don't thrive by accident, they thrive by intention. In your post-pandemic life, relationships will either be your greatest source of strength or your greatest source of pain. When you choose to nurture them with presence, honesty, and care, you don't just improve your life, you improve the lives of everyone connected to you. And in the end, it is the quality of your relationships that defines the quality of your life. Ladies and gentlemen, resilience is not about avoiding hardship, it is about rising through it. The pandemic proved that life can change in an instant, and no amount of planning can eliminate uncertainty. But what it also revealed is the incredible capacity of the human spirit to adapt, endure, and grow. Every challenge you survive strengthens something inside you, whether you recognized it at the time or not. Pain, when given meaning, becomes power. Resilience is built through perspective. Two people can experience the same crisis and walk away with completely different outcomes. One becomes bitter, the other becomes better. The difference is not the event, it is the interpretation. When you begin to see challenges as training rather than punishment, your nervous system calms and your confidence grows. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this preparing me for?" Growth requires discomfort. Muscles grow by resistance, character grows by adversity. During the pandemic, many people were forced to confront fear, loneliness, and loss. Those experiences, while painful, expanded emotional capacity. They built empathy, they deepened awareness, and they created an opportunity to contribute from a place of understanding rather than theory. Contribution is one of the fastest ways to restore strength after struggle. When you use your experience to help someone else, suffering transforms into significance. You realize that what you went through was not wasted, it was preparation. Helping others doesn't require perfection, it requires presence and willingness. Even small acts of service create a sense of purpose that no external success can replace. Resilient people do not wait for life to be easy before moving forward. They move forward because movement creates strength. They acknowledge pain without letting it define them. And they choose growth again and again, even when it feels uncomfortable. When you build resilience through growth and contribution, you stop fearing the next challenge, because you trust the person you have become through the last one. Ladies and gentlemen, lasting change never comes from a single emotional moment. It comes from what you do after the motivation fades. The biggest mistake people make is believing that feeling inspired is enough to transform their lives. Inspiration is powerful, but it is temporary. Commitment is what creates results. Commitment means deciding in advance who you are and how you will act, regardless of how you feel on a given day. Consistent action is the bridge between intention and identity. Every small action you take sends a message to your nervous system about who you are becoming. When you keep promises to yourself, even tiny ones, your self-trust grows. And when self-trust grows, confidence follows naturally. You don't need massive changes to create a massive shift. You need small, repeatable actions done daily, especially on the days you feel tired, uncertain, or unmotivated. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. Consistency compounds. One disciplined choice may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time it shapes habits. Habits shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. Waiting for the perfect time or perfect mood only keeps you stuck. Progress belongs to those who move forward imperfectly. Commitment also means choosing standards over excuses. Excuses protect comfort, standards protect growth. When you raise your standards, you no longer negotiate with your emotions. You act because it's who you are, not because it's easy. This is how temporary motivation becomes permanent change. Living your best post-pandemic life is not about dramatic reinvention. It is about daily alignment. Showing up again and again, taking action even when no one is watching. Over time, consistency creates momentum, momentum creates belief, and belief fuels even greater action. When you commit to consistent action, you stop hoping for a better future and start building it, one decision at a time.